Hi guys, and welcome back to Malt Box, the non-chill filtered whiskey blog. I'm Andy and I'm back here today with another whiskey review. Now, let's get this straight. Yes, the surroundings are absolutely abysmal. Yes, it looks like I'm in some sort of Mexican hostage video and somebody's about to demand probably quite a small ransom. Now, the whiskey I'm going to be looking at today was provided to me by the Somerton Whisky Club. Now, when I say provided, I am a paid up member of the Somerton Whisky Club. Now, it is a monthly subscription service run by Dan, who does a great job of providing pretty affordable and oftentimes some random whiskey selections, but not in a bad way. Sometimes I think I get stuck into a bit of a rabbit hole while I do a shed ton of research into something, and sometimes I get a little bit puffed out and I don't really know kind of what I want. It's nice to kind of get a bit of a surprise every now and then. Now, I get whiskey clubs aren't for everyone, but if you are, check it out. Now, this whiskey is actually from the Glasgow distillery, and I believe that this hasn't actually gone to market yet. And it's one of the King's Inch bottles. So here we go. So we've got a bottle of King's Inch here. Now, this is actually a director's cut, King's Inch director's cut, small batch release, best of bourbon, which means that every single cask, that goes into this batch has been basically matured in. It's ex-bourbon. It's all ex-bourbon. It's 5 casks. 5 casks filled September 2015, bottled in February 2023. Now, this is not, I don't think, a release from the guys at Glasgow Direct. I could well be wrong. Allow me to look at the piece of paper that comes with this, because again, woefully underprepared. Yeah, so it's fulfilled by the Glasgow distillery, but it's not actually produced. This is, you know what I mean. It's produced by the guys at Glasgow distillery, but it's not bottled by the guys at Glasgow distillery. It's not one of their brands. So since this is, I've not opened it. I'm trying it for the first time with you guys. It might take a few minutes just to open up. I'll try and not bore you all to death whilst I allow that to aerate, etc. Firstly, nice colour in the bottle there. It's nice and bright in here in sunny North Lancashire today. The sun is shining, it is warm, it is gorgeous. And an ex-bourbon dram, as you all know, is my preference. I prefer ex-bourbon. And this is exactly the kind of weather that I enjoy an ex-bourbon whiskey in. Now, the Glasgow distillery, it's not been going too long. A lot of their whiskey tends to be peated. They do a lot of funky things like a lot of triple distillation and things like that. And it's, from what I've had so far, it's been quite nice. I'll be honest, I haven't explored a lot of their own range. In part, and sorry to the guys at Glasgow if you're watching this, but historically, I don't know if they do now, but historically they used to bottle their whiskies in 50 cl, small bottles. Now, was it price proximate to the 50 to 70? That's kind of out in the open for you to sort of take a look at and judge for yourself. But my attention was always drawn somewhere else, just because there was that much out there. And they came around at a time for me where I had my head in a lot of other buckets, so to speak. Now, this is non-chill filtered, natural colour, and bottled at 47.1%, which is cool. I like that. I like a 46er. I like a 40-somethinger. Yeah, you can water down a 50 or 60% dram, great, but it's sometimes very hard to get that balance. Sometimes you can take it half a teaspoon too far of water. Sometimes it's just never quite enough, and then you have to have another glass just to make sure you get the balance right. Now, bourbon, again, probably my preferred go-to. Like ex-bourbon casks, I just find that I prefer their sort of like lighter, vanilla-y, spicy profile. I think it lets a lot of core distillate shine through. Whether or not ex-bourbon casks will be quite as available in the next few years to Scotch whisky producers is another story. Obviously in America they're going to start being able to reuse them in bourbon production and the like, whereas as things stand at the minute, you can only use them once, technically, along with the bourbon regs over in the States. So I mean, I don't know a lot about the King's Inch. What I do know, again, thanks to the handy piece of paper that Dan includes with your monthly Somerton whisky order, is the old measure was 3 barley husks. Is it husks? Oh, I don't even know what barley grains are called. 3 grains of barley, why not? End to end, and that was an inch, effectively. So an old measurement of an inch, and that was the King's Inch, apparently. I would be gutted if I was the king and someone said, yeah, named an inch after King's Inch. You'd be like, wow, that is my legacy. I was going to be calling me like, Inchy, or, other kings do massive, massive great things, and you're just known as the Inch, which isn't particularly complimentary in certain circles. So, yeah, Glasgow Distillery, as you can expect, is based in Glasgow. Relatively new. There is a few offerings out there, like I say, go and check them out. I think I've actually had another one from Somerton Club from memory, an official bottle, which was like, I think it was a port pipe maybe. And I've not actually opened it yet because, again, I'm kind of limited with what whiskey I have in the house at the minute. A lot of it's still in storage. Most of it is still in storage, in fact. So I'm kind of having to pick up a box here and there, or maybe pick a couple of bottles out of the boxes here and there when I kind of go to the storage place to look at it. Now, again, this is ex-bourbon. This is 5 casks. So this is a batch of 5 casks. Now, bourbon casks, pretty chunky. They are pretty chunky. Now, this isn't going to mean anything, but casks 37, 78, 80, 82 and 94. I mean, fantastic. But they're all first fill. So they're all first fill bourbon, which means that no other Scotch whisky, etc. has been in this previously. It's basically had the bourbon in there, it's been emptied, shipped off to Scotland, and then someone's come along and put something in it. That's your first fill. So let's have a look. That should have had ample time to open up by now. Again, nice colour in the glass there. Ooh. Okay. Yes, alright, there's a bit of vanilla in there, as you'd expect from bourbon casks, but there's quite a lot of nuttiness to it for me. Very nutty, a little bit of spice, a little bit of heat, some green apple as well. I know I use green apple a lot, but look, I get green apple a lot in whiskey, alright? Possibly some licorice, like licorice all sorts. When you open the bag of licorice all sorts, I fucking hate licorice all sorts. I think licorice is the devil's sweets, but it does smell nice in this, along with that vanilla, along with that spice, and along with that kind of nuttiness as well. Maybe a bit of peach actually, still fruit, veering away from apples, going into peach. See if there's any tasting notes. I'm sure I've seen tasting notes somewhere. So on the front it says round and honey sweet with notes of heather and vanilla. A hint of peppercorn on the palate, rising to a long finish. Rising to a long finish. That's the King's Inch for you, rising to a long finish. Okay. Ooh, custardy. I know I said vanilla, but yeah, custardy. Right, here's to you, onto the palate. Good mouthfeel. That vanilla, definitely present. Woo-wee. As is that pepper, they are not wrong. That is a lot of pepper. That is so peppery. That is hot. When I say hot, like, a lot of people don't like alcohol burn. That isn't alcohol burn. That is pepper. That is like someone who's ground up like black pepper in a glass with some vanilla extract and fruit juice, and it's gone, have a taste of that. I've made it myself. That is hot. Again, great mouthfeel, oily, viscous. I think honey may have been implanted in my head from reading the tasting notes, but I get it on the palate. I don't get any of it on the nose. The custard's back. The fruitiness is back. That pepperiness is back. But you know what? I actually really enjoy that. It is hot, but it is also quite uplifting. It's like, come on, let's do this thing. I'm not saying it's going to replace my morning coffee, because obviously drinking whiskey first thing in the morning is not something I will ever condone. Well, I suppose it depends on the day. But what I would say is this is very much it's a very different ex-bourbon dram than what I would say I would probably associate my ex-bourbon preference to being. So Compass Box Orchard House, for example, or something along those lines, you know. Pulteney, a lot of, you know, IB Pulteneys, independent bottled Pulteneys, that kind of thing. This lovely sort of like honey, vanilla-y, sort of like cinnamony richness that I really like. Now this does have that, however, it has a hell of a lot of punch and backbone. Now I'm not saying that is a bad thing, because it is not. This is very, very good, very engaging and very different. I'll be honest, I've not bought any of this brand previously. If it wasn't for that Whisky Club, I probably wouldn't have done. If it wasn't for Somerton, I would never have chosen it. I'll level with you. It's no offence to the guys who produce the King's Inch or to Glasgow Distillery who make the stuff itself. It's more, again, my head is in other buckets generally. I mean, it might not be anymore, but also, I mean, with everything with the house, I own a Land Rover Defender. That takes a lot of maintenance. A treat to me at the minute is no longer a bottle of whiskey. It is a tin of paint, or a whatever needs fixing on the landy. So whiskey, I've not really bought any whiskey. The only whiskey I've been buying is probably 20 quid bottles of Pulteney 12 on Amazon. You know, Jeff Bezos's House of Horrors, or Somerton. You know, Somerton's been turned up, and Somerton's kind of kept me ticking over and got me some really nice bottles. I got the Feta Cairn 16, the latest iteration of Feta Cairn 16 came in the last batch. So fair play to, not just to Dan for choosing this one and reaching out with the brands, but to the guys at the Courageous Spirits Limited, and you know, for starting this very, very interesting brand here. It's certainly got my attention. It really has. I mean, that pepper had my attention, really did. But Best of Bourbon, do you know what? That's what it's called, Best of Bourbon. Direct's called Best of Bourbon. It certainly gives you probably an intense, it's almost like a Michelin chef's tasting menu of the Best of Bourbon, in the sense of, you know, it's just very intensely flavoured. It really is. The nose is sort of lulling you into a false sense of security, and then the palate's just like, have it, have some pepper, come on boy. Overall, very, very, very pleasant, very pleasing. Once more for the road. Yeah. The peach kind of carried over onto the palate now. Finish is long, sweet, a little bit spicy, a little bit vanilla. Happy days. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.